Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And in today's episode, we're evaluating one of the strangest seasons of the Philadelphia Phillies 2023 year, Trea Turner's 2023 season. It was one of the worst of his professional career, a really slump-laden season that turned into something actually kind of special at the end. We'll break down all of it, from the standing ovation to why he's the key to the Phillies 2024 season. All of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. 2 years as a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member. You can hear me on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio. Check me out on NBC Sports Philadelphia on the television side. Locked On Phillies is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And please make sure you're continuing to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube if you have not done so already. It takes just a second to click the button. It costs you no money, gets you new notifications when new episodes are posted so you don't miss any very important Philadelphia Phillies news. And it helps us out big time here on Locked On Phillies, the Locked On Podcast Network in general, and me personally. So I appreciate everyone very much so who's already subscribed. If you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? We're getting very close to 2,000 subscribers. So appreciate, again, everyone who's already done that. Click that button, subscribe for me. And today's episode is going to be a very interesting one with Trea Turner's evaluation, the next one up. Now, we know what happened with Trea Turner's 2023 season and how bad of a slump he was in to start it. We got a John Hamm narrated hype video when Trea Turner signed here, basically saying that he was slump-proof. That's legitimately what he was called. And then, wouldn't you know it, he went into the biggest, worst slump of his professional career. I've never seen a Trea Turner like the one that you saw in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform for the first couple months of this regular season. And it was definitely something that hurt the Phillies' ability to contend early on in the season. And then, you know the story, the standing ovation from the fan base completely turned it around. Trea Turner credited himself for his success in the latter part of the season and turning it around mentally. Like, he mentally struggled big time. We saw this with Nick Castellanos in 2022. He bounced back to be an all-star in 2023. Trea Turner got it partway through the year where he flipped it around. Now, it was too little too late to make the numbers look good compared to what he normally does in his career. But there were some impressive numbers that Trea Turner put up, considering how bad he was for most of this season. So firstly, we're going to evaluate his 2023 numbers. And let's dive into what the stats say. So Trea Turner's batting average this year was .266. For a guy that's normally right around 300, well, that's his lowest mark of a full season in his major league career. He has never had that low of a batting average in a full season. The only other time there's even a listing on his baseball reference page of a batting average like that was the .225 average he posted in his first major league season, in which he only played 27 games and had 44 plate appearances. This was an unprecedentedly bad year average-wise for Trea Turner. His slash numbers, .266, .320 OBP, .459 slugging, and you could put a .778 OPS on there. All of those low compared to his average for his career. So it was clearly a down year for Trea Turner, and you don't have to tell the fan base that, right? We all watched it. He struggled mightily to start the year. But he got on a heater down near the end of the season. So listen to some of these totals for numbers. He ended the season with 35 doubles. That was only 4 off what he did in 2022 when he won the Silver Slugger for the National League shortstop position. As far as triples concerned, he had 5 this year. That's one more than last year. So an uptick in triples. And he actually, believe it or not, hit 5 more home runs this past season than he did in 2022. The 26 home runs, the second highest mark of his major league career. He'd hit 28 back in 2021, was an all-star that year. This year, 26. So the power numbers came around. He did hit a real heater in the end of the season. It seems like the Phillies all did. I mean, their month of August was one of the great home run hitting months in the history of baseball. And part of that was because Trea Turner got hot. At the same time, Kyle Schwarber was getting hot, and Castellanos and Harper, and everybody kind of found their power stroke in August, late in the final month of the summer. So is that a positive thing? Absolutely. But it kind of covers up just how bad Trea Turner was at points this year. We're evaluating the whole 2023, not how he ended the season, how the season was as a whole. And the overall averages were not good. But the total numbers don't look awful. So that shows you that when Trea Turner's going great, he can be an outstanding baseball player. And you knew this. The Phillies gave him a huge contract because of that. And now Trea Turner, in his second year, heading into his second year with the Phillies, I mean, he's 30 years old. So he's not over the hill by any stretch of the imagination. This was not an age-related decline or anything of that sort. No, this is just, I guess, nerves, signing a big contract, knowing he's going to play here for the rest of his life, and then he slumps and mentally it gets to him, and it turns into this mental fight internally for him to try and pull out of it. Credit to him, he did, right? But it was not Trea Turner's best season. So I can't give him glowing reviews for the 2023 season just because he finished strong. I mean, we're evaluating the whole product here. And top to bottom, his numbers just don't look like the Trea Turner we've seen. Now, here's the good thing, right? This is something that was really nice to see. He stole 30 bases this year and was caught stealing 0 times. He was 30 for 30 in the regular season, a perfecto for Trea Turner. And while those numbers are down from some of his career highs, stole 32 one year, stole 35 one year, 43 one year to lead the National League, 46 the year before that. Like, he has more in the tank when it comes to stealing bases, but clearly he picked and chose his spots very well in the 2023 season. So the running game really picked up when the offense picked up for Trea Turner. Also, something that I find interesting, he had 45 walks this year, which ties for the second highest mark of his career. He had 45 in 2022, and back in, let me figure out exactly what season that was, the 2018 season, he had 69 walks. That was his best approach at the plate at any point in his career. But I mean, he was on par this year with the walks, and he wasn't even being like that disciplined at the plate because he had 150 strikeouts, which is a career high. Like, that was part of the issue. Trea Turner was just lost at the plate, and the contact went. That's why the average was low. It's why the power numbers were still high, because when he did get hits, he was creating opportunities for run scoring. They were just so few and far between. He walked, but he struck out a bunch, which to me, that points to a mental thing, right? If you were not walking as much as you normally do in your career and you were striking out a bunch, you're having a bad approach to play. If you're walking the same amount you normally do and striking out more, that to me says he's almost hesitant to pull the trigger. Like, that to me says more like mental timidness on the part of Trea Turner at points this season. And watching him play, like, the eye test tells you that that's absolutely the case. Like, he just wasn't mentally where he needed to be to start the season. It wasn't that he wasn't capable. He just, for whatever reason, went through a really, really tough stretch. Now, it speaks to his resolve, once again, that he came out of it. And it also speaks to the fan base. Like, when we evaluate Trea Turner's season, part of it is also an evaluation of the impact that this fan base can have on individual players and the team as a whole. If you don't think that the Philadelphia Phillies fan base played a large part in turning Trea Turner's season around, I don't know what you're watching. And I totally disagree with that thought process. I think that the fan base was a big reason why Trea Turner was able to at least salvage some of his 2023 season. And credit for the rest of that does go to the individual player and Turner's ability to fight through that. And once he got momentum, he didn't really give it back. Now, he didn't have the best postseason. He didn't have big, impactful at-bats in the postseason at any point. And that's kind of been a mark of Trea Turner's career. He hasn't been a huge postseason performer, even in multiple opportunities. So that's, I guess, a concern. But the positive of all of this is the Phillies went to the NLCS and were a win away from going to the World Series with the worst version of Trea Turner. So coming up, we're going to have a discussion about why I think Trea Turner is the number one key to the 2024 season for the Philadelphia Phillies, and why I think it's actually a pretty good bet to place if you think that he's going to have a bounce back year. Speaking of good bets, well, let's check in with one of our best advertisers. Yes, it's FanDuel, and you know about FanDuel. I tell you about them all the time. And as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers are staying hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers are getting $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So what does that mean? The NFL's rocking right now. The Eagles are playing well. Let's say you look at the Eagles-Niners game coming up this Sunday and you say, okay, I'm going to place 5 on the Eagles to win. The Eagles win, you get $150 in bonus bets. Plus, of course, you get the money you get from just winning that bet. Now, what I'd recommend you do to give yourself the best chance of winning, I don't know, find the team, the game with the biggest difference in money line odds, bet on the heavy favorite, and you're going to get $150 either way. Well, either way based on the odds. They've got to win still, but it's a great deal by FanDuel. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app's super easy to use. They got a bunch of different bets you can play. I was telling you about Moneyline. Well, they've also got over-unders. You can bet the spread. You can bet player props. You can bet futures. You can bet a parlay that merges a whole bunch of those. All kinds of stuff available at FanDuel. They're absolutely great. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and keep the NFL season going hot. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, so why is Trea Turner the key in 2024? Well, the Phillies had a solid offense, all things considered, and they got to a deep part of the postseason. And all of that was with Trea Turner in tow, not playing up to his best. And frankly, I hate to do this because I don't want to jinx him. And if he has another down year in 2024, people are going to be like, you said he was going to be. Hear me out on this. Let me run you through the batting averages for Trea Turner's career. We're just going to run through this going retroactively. So we know the 2023 average of 266. In 2022, he batted 298. The year before that, 338. The year before that, 322. The year before that, 328 and led the major leagues. The year before that, 335. The year before that, 298. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons in a row, Trea Turner batted 298 or better. Then this year he batted 266, 32 points below where he had his lowest mark over the past 6 seasons. I mean, this is just a guy that flat out has hit his whole career. And he had a down year. And that really screwed his numbers up for 2023. But if you watch the end of the 2023 season and you don't think Trea Turner's capable of being that player, I don't know what you were watching. He's still very, very good at baseball. If you don't have the mental struggles that Trea Turner went through this year, which were very atypical, that was an anomaly season for Trea Turner. What would you trust? Let me ask you something, okay? If a team won 6 games and lost 1, are they a good team or a bad team? Would you trust the 6 wins or the 1 loss? I'm trusting the bigger sample size, and that points to him being a good baseball player, a better than good baseball player, a great baseball player. And Trea Turner still is that guy. So you think about what the Phillies can do to improve the roster. We've talked about this multiple times already this offseason, but you got Bryce Harper at first base, but he already played there. It's not really an improvement. And Bryce Harper, you know what you're going to get from him. He's really consistently good. Bryce Stott had a breakout year at second base. And he's a guy that I don't truly know what his ceiling is. I think it's higher than where he's playing right now, but you don't look at Bryce Stott and say, oh, he's got a lot more room to improve. He had an outstanding year. Alec Boehm maybe can up the power numbers a little bit, but defensively he made a huge jump. He was really clutch at points. His postseason performance needs to improve, but you're not getting much more at third base. Kyle Schwarber at DH, maybe you'll get a better average season, but he's still hitting nearly 50 home runs in both seasons as a Philly so far, so he's kind of capped out. Castellanos had an outstanding year, one of his career best years. I don't think you're getting much better out of him in right field. And I'm not saying this to say that these players are not good. No, I'm saying that not many Phillies players had like a really, really down year in 2023. Now, you could say the center field position could get significantly better. And maybe Brandon Marsh has another step in left field. We saw some flashes in the postseason. Like, whoever plays center field, if it's Johan Rojas or if it's someone the Phillies bring in, I think can be an improvement out at that position. I think Brandon Marsh in left will hugely improve the defense with Kyle Schwarber at DH. And JT Realmuto, maybe he has a bounce-back year. We talked about in a recent episode his regression and if that's a sign of age for Realmuto. But that's what we're looking at. The starting pitching, you're bringing back basically the same guys unless there's a big acquisition. Still fingers crossed that there is another one coming for the Philadelphia Phillies. And the bullpen was really good at points. You can improve on Craig Kimbrell's spot, but really if you look at the numbers, the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen in 2023 was above average. So where do the Philadelphia Phillies get significantly better? We've talked about this, right? They're kind of hold in where they are with the players at these positions. So some guy has to take a big jump for the Philadelphia Phillies to take a big jump. And Trea Turner is the number one prime candidate for that. He's probably over the course of his career the most consistent player on this team. And that includes this past season. I mean, even with the down year, his track record still looks as consistent as anybody on this roster. And the consistency he reaches is at an elite level. So you expect him to bounce back. And if he does, how much better can this baseball team be? Imagine you take a 266 hitter this year, and let's just say, yes, does something similar to what he did with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2022. So he bats 298, nearly reaches the 300 mark. He still hits over 20 home runs. He hits nearly 40 doubles, right around 5 triples again. He steals another 30 bases. Like, really, the only thing killing Trea Turner were the strikeouts and the average. He struck out 131 times with the Dodgers, but compared to 150, you take 19 less strikeouts on the season. There are other years, 110, 113 total strikeout. Like, this is a guy that in his career has only cleared 100 strikeouts 5 times. He's got a total of 9 years. So about 50-50 as to whether he stays under that. And some of those count shorter seasons. So maybe a little bit more likely that he clears 100. But you shouldn't see 150 again in the strikeout column out of him. And what does that mean? It means more time for him on base. That means more speed on the bases. That means more runs scored. And when you look at the amount of runs he scored this year, he scored 102 this year, even in spite of not being on base all that often. Scored 101 with the Dodgers the year before. Like, Trea Turner has another gear he can get to in this Phillies offense with the other guys hitting around him. He just needs to have a better average year. And if you tell me Trea Turner is going to bat 266 again in the 2024 season, I flat out do not believe you. This is the guy that the Phillies need to go back to, like, revert back to the great player he is. And all the data says that he should do that. And what he did at the end of the season was encouraging. And the comfortability he should feel coming back. He knows this fan base has his back after believing in him through that season. He's probably thinking, well, pressure's off me now. Now I can just go out and play baseball like the way I know I'm capable of playing it. And that's why I think Trea Turner's in for a huge 2024 season. How could he not be? Like, seriously, you can justify this past year as jitters signing a long contract in a city that's tough to play in with a ravenous fan base that's going to get on you if you don't play well. Philly still holds that reputation, and we should be proud of that because we expect a lot from our teams. And if they don't deliver, we let them know. I think that's the right way of being a fan of a professional team. But he also knows that Philly's got his back no matter what. And the fact that he signed long-term here, we're happy to have him. We're lucky to have him. We are. It might not have felt like it for most of this 2023 season, but we are. And I think the real rewarding of the fan base sticking behind Trea Turner is the fact that you did not mentally lose him in 2023. He bounced back, and now he can carry that momentum into 2024. Just imagine if you added another all-star, maybe a silver slugger, one of the best shortstop in baseball to this team. Because this past year, Trea Turner was an average to maybe slightly above average shortstop when you look at the scope of the major leagues. He's better than that. And he's been better than that consistently for 6 of the last 7 years. I feel pretty good about Trea Turner being the key to 2024 because if he steps up, this offense takes a leap. The other guys have a lot more RBI opportunities. Like, the lineup becomes easier to build. I don't see him moving into the leadoff spot because I just think Kyle Schwarber is so entrenched there. But could he bat second and be consistent? Could he be a guy that maybe you put in the 3-hole and move Bryce Harper to clean up if you wanted more pop there? Harper going to be healthy for the entire season. Like, Trea Turner having a good year adds versatility to the lineup as well, and just gives you another piece to move around and find out where he fits. He's the key to making all this work. Basically, every other guy in the lineup, you have a general idea of what you're going to get from them. You've got a feeling of what type of player they are. Trea Turner, we haven't seen what Trea Turner is when he's playing not at his best, at his normal level. And that's why, to me, he's the key for the 2024 season. It might sound overly positive, but hey, I'm a positive guy, and the numbers back it up. Bet on Trea Turner in 2024. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back year, and that would be huge to raise the Philadelphia Phillies season ceiling even more. Now, as we wrap up, though, there is part of Trea Turner's game that we need to discuss, and something that was not great this year. How worried should we be about his defense? We'll discuss that coming up as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Yeah, defensively, Trea Turner, not great. in 2023. He just wasn't. I mean, when you look at the numbers that he put up playing shortstop for the Phillies, they just frankly weren't getting good enough. He had 23 errors. The highest mark he had previously in his career was 16, and that was the year before with the Dodgers. Do I think Trea Turner's regressing defensively? I don't know. It's really tough to say. It's troubling that he set career highs in back-to-back years in errors, and I don't feel great about that. His fielding percentage, 960 this year. That is the lowest mark of a full season in his career. It's not great. It's not at all. So I don't know. Should we be worried? I think a little bit, yeah. This is the biggest thing that I don't really have full faith in Trea Turner. I just told you how much faith I have in him offensively at the plate to be the type of player that you acquired when you signed him long-term. Defensively, I don't know. It's why when I talked about Bryson Stott's evaluation, I brought up a potential change in position. Could Stott play shortstop and Turner play second? Now, we talked, too, about the mentality of Trea Turner. I don't know how it would affect him mentally if the team came to him and said, hey, I know we signed you long-term to be the shortstop of this team. We're giving it to the kid just 1 year after, and it wasn't even a good year by you before you get a chance to really settle in here. I don't know how that would sit with him. So that's why I don't think it's likely, but I do think it's a possibility. And because it's a possibility, that just shows you that there are questions about Trea Turner's defense. He has to be better defensively. Now, here's what covers for him, right? Part of what killed the Phillies last year defensively, Trea Turner had a very bad year. And Kyle Schwarber was the worst defender in baseball. And because of Bryce Harper's injury, he was forced to play left for a lot of that first part of the season. That was just an absolute liability out there. Now, Schwarber's going to DH. Harper's going to play first. You're going to have plus defense in the outfield. And that means that even if Trea Turner has the same year he had defensively, the Phillies will still be a better defensive baseball team simply because Kyle Schwarber's not playing. So that goes into the category of you can get away with Trea Turner having a bad defensive year again, but I don't want to see the guy that you paid all this money that's here forever, like already regressing defensively. I need to see him cut down on those errors. And part of it I do think was mental. Like I think it was, we saw it with Alec Bohm last year, right? He was having trouble in the field, trouble at the dish, and it kind of compiled. It happened in 2021 as well, in a year that he was sent down. I think that gets to you too. Like those games are not separate. We look at it as two different parts of the game, hitting, fielding. But the player's brain is in the same spot, still in their head. So when you make mistakes at the plate, when you're struggling, you might want to try and press defensively to try and make big plays, and it could end up forcing you to make mistakes. And that's a bad spot to be in. So if I had to guess, I'd say Trea Turner won't be as bad defensively, but he certainly did not look like a plus defender. He made some really big defensive plays in the postseason. He still has, like, he's got the ability to be better than what he is. But the numbers the past 2 years, errors-wise, they do scare me. So if I have the biggest worry about Trea Turner in 2024, it's the defense. And he needs to prove that. But the offense, I got to be honest with you, I think it's going to come. So will we get another Philly that, once again, is here for their offense and not really for their defense? That's not ideal for your shortstop. But I already told you, if he has a better offensive year, look how good this lineup can be. And they were already good with him having a down year. Like, the Phillies are going to be, if the Phillies are going to be better next year, a large reason is because Trea Turner is better both offensively and defensively. And I think it's a safe bet, at least in one of those categories, he's going to be. And the other one, the defense, we'll see. But I don't think it will kill the Phillies. So should you be worried about it? A little bit. Yeah. It's a focus. It's not a fatal flaw as of yet. It's just something to keep an eye on going forward. And I think you still have to give him the benefit of the doubt at shortstop. If he has a down year this year, defensively too, then we might have a more serious conversation about Bryson Stott playing the shortstop position, Trea Turner shifting to second. But we'll get there when we get there. That's my evaluation of Trea Turner for the 2023 season. We haven't ripped through a bunch of these. This is number 14 for the evaluation. So we just went over the halfway mark of the 26-man roster. So let me know who you want to us to evaluate next. I believe Trea Turner is the last starter position player that we needed to go through. So we have bench players. We have relief pitchers. Haven't done Ranger Suarez yet for the starters. So let me know in the comments who you want me to evaluate next. Jump in the comments of this video, of this podcast. Tell me who the player you want me to evaluate in the next episode is as we continue to rattle off evaluations of the 2023 season. And please make sure you're continuing to rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff to Locked On Phillies. I appreciate it. Locked On Phillies is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.